everyone. Again, I'm just seeing just the names going. Joined. I'm like, I see my sister. What's up, girl? Hey. If my mom could join, she would. She doesn't have Instagram. Get over it. Okay, I'm gonna roll this little doohickey up. We're gonna start cross-legged. Now, for everyone who is joining, we have Lloyd and myself, obviously, sitting on a block. If you would like to come to a block, a pillow, typically 9 times out of 10, most people are gonna need to come onto something. Now, the reason for this is when we're, I'm gonna see if my ankle can do this. So when we're in a seated cross-legged position, we do want, we want that anterior tilt to the pelvis. So you wanna make sure that you're not sitting here like this, cross-legged of course, but with your knees up and your lower back rounding. So Lloyd's lower back is nice and straight right now. We've got his knees in line with his hips. Ideally, they'll come a little bit lower, but does this feel comfortable, or do you feel like you're having to really pull to stay sitting up? Feels good? Okay. If you do feel like you're like having to hold on to sit up, add a little more height. That's totally fine. I love to sit up on a block, sit up on pillows. I can be very flexible in some positions, but when it comes to hips, no ma'am, I need a lot of assistance. So come to a block, maybe even if you want to begin sitting on like your couch or something, you can totally do that. I'm gonna roll this little guy up under my ankle, and we're just gonna start to come to a comfortable seated position. You'll also notice, which is very interesting too, that you will probably have one knee that is considerably higher than the other one. Or you might be even like Lloyd. More followers, better hips, whatever. So for me, mine is very obvious, which is my bad hip. Also a little bit exacerbated because I have had an injury. I've sprained my ankle, so I've been unable to do certain hip openers. So this hip is real crusty right now. So you can really see one of my knees is way down here, the other one's like goodbye. That's fine. You don't need to feel weird about that. If you do have one hip really high, if both of your hips are really high, did you die? Then what happens? Like, you're fine. Who cares how open your hips are? We'll get them there, don't worry. We'll get you. You might start crying, it'll be great. Get ready for emotion. So we're sitting up nice and tall, we're rising up out of our sit bones, and we wanna rise up tall from the crown of our head. What typically happens with people with this is that they immediately wanna lift their chin up. So when you're thinking of coming from the crown of your head, it's actually not really necessarily the center of your head. It's almost like a little bit like where my bun is. My bun is on my crown right now, so it's a little bit farther back. So you want to almost elongate the back of the neck because we want spine health at all times. That's like the basis of yoga, I feel, is a healthy spine. So you want your spine to be growing up tall. So think that your spine, your root chakra, the base of your spine is growing down into the ground and just growing roots out there. And we're growing up nice and tall, so your chin is going to be slightly tucked here to elongate along the back of the neck. Depending how tight you are, you might actually feel a little stretch there. We're going to also roll the shoulders up and back. We want to be nice and open across the chest. You can have the palms facing up if you want to, if you're feeling to receive energy, or you can have them face down if you feel like you need a little bit of grounding. Usually it'll just kind of happen automatically. You've already put your hands up, right? So you'll sort of feel what you feel for that day. Maybe you want to have your hands in your lap or something if that's comfortable for you. I find for me that kind of pulls my shoulders forward, so I like to make sure I'm nice and open. Also to make sure you're aligned really well here. If you find that to reach your knees, you have to kind of see how my arms have come forward. I almost do start to. You want to pull your arms back. They don't have to be on your knees. There's no rules here. So they can be a little bit more into your lap. So after that 45-minute discussion on sitting down, we're gonna go ahead and get started. So just making sure you're nice and tall, growing tall out of the crown of the head. We can go ahead and start to close down the eyes. If this doesn't feel safe for you, you can always have your eyes slightly open. Just lower your gaze a little bit to soften the gaze. Make sure you're focusing on one point. And just start to come into your breath and notice what's happening in your body. With yoga as well, we always want to make sure that we are breathing in and out through the nose. Depending on stuffiness, of course. If you have a cold, that might be a little dangerous. So make sure you're feeling comfortable. But what happens when we breathe in and out through the nose is that we get a little bit more into the parasympathetic nervous system. And when this happens, that controls our flight or fight response. So when you get into a more difficult position, if you're breathing in and out through the mouth and sort of gasping your breath in, like you would notice in a workout, you're gonna your body's gonna feel a little bit more like danger, like this is something that doesn't feel good, and you start to get that heart rate, which is what you want in exercise. But in yoga posture, you don't necessarily want that. You want to be tuned in, you want to be relaxed. So breathing in and out through the nose can really help with that when you are in a position that's maybe a little bit trying on you and maybe physically a little harder. Keep it in and out through the nose. It'll feel a little bit harder, but it will keep you calmed down and keep your breath a little more steady. So just beginning to move the breath in and out through the nose. And beginning to focus on your anchor point. So this is going to be any point in the body where you most notice your breath. So this could be your nostrils, the throat, chest, or the belly. And all we're going to do now is just kind of drop our attention into that spot. And without judgment, there's no right or wrong here. Wherever you feel that breath is where you feel it. I'm not sitting here thinking about, ooh, my breath could be deeper, maybe I could change something. Just observing it. All we want to do is just have curiosity at all times here. So just noticing for yourself today, maybe you've noticed that already, just sitting here and starting to slow down the breath perhaps. You maybe notice that your breath has naturally grown a little bit deeper, a little more relaxed maybe, or maybe you are breathing quite short and quick, maybe you're feeling uncomfortable. You have a lot on your mind, maybe your mind is wandering a lot. Again, no judgment, just observing, just noticing what's happening. And just tuning into the body now, we're going to do a quick body scan. So starting up at the top of your head, just slowly scanning down through your body. Not getting stuck anywhere in particular, but just observing and noticing if you have maybe some sensation somewhere. You notice you have a bit of pain somewhere, a little bit of heaviness or lightness. And just noticing that, moving on, just getting a picture of where your body's at today in this moment. Just appreciating the relaxation and the silence that you're getting. Gratitude already at the very beginning of your practice. Just for yourself, for taking time out of your day to come here, to come join us on Instagram. And take some time for yourself to move your body, to feel good. And we're going to take 3 cleansing breaths here. So we're going to take a deep inhale in through the nose, gathering up any tension or stress, and then opening the mouth, exhale, sigh it out. Twice more. So inhale deeply, open the mouth with sound. And last one, on your inhale, gathering up any last bits of stress, tension, worry, and let that go. So you can blink open your eyes here. We're going to start to move into a move called the Sufi grind. If you are up really high on a block or something, you might need to move off. Just kind of see how you feel. If you feel like you're a little off center, you might want to come down flat to the ground. We're just going to start to get a little movement into the hips and the spine. So you can bring your hands down flat if that's more comfortable. And we're just going to start to get small circles here into the hips, into the spine. And these circles can be as small or as big as you want. I already noticed that I want to go big, so I need to get down off my block round and go flying. So just kind of see how you feel. Maybe one day you do super crazy wide circles, and then the next day you're feeling like you need a little bit more space, and you're just like, oh, and you just want little. That's totally fine. Just see where you feel. So starting to really rotate in, and you can start to almost bring your spine into it. So you want to think of inhaling almost your chest forward, maybe head back, and then exhaling, maybe curling the spine. You can really make this into kind of a little dance. Just getting that motion into the spine and the hips, starting to wake that up. And just following your breath here. And then when it feels right, just switching directions. What you do to one, you must do to the other, y'all. Don't ever leave one side lopsided. That will affect you, I promise. You'll be limping along all day, and you might look cool, but it's not going to feel good.
And then you said we can change the block as well?
Yes, if you feel like you want to go wider, you can take out any blocks or any props that you're sitting on. This isn't, we don't hold this as long, so if you don't quite have that real anterior tilt, that's fine here. You can really just get into that movement. I always like to bring my neck into it a little bit as well. I just like to flail, you know, real crazy hippie. So slowly starting to shrink those circles as we come back to center. Ooh. So we are going to roll over onto our hands and our knees. We're going to come into tabletop position. If you would like, that was my hip. If you would like to keep your blanket to put your knees on, you can do that. If you have a towel or something around you and you have tender knees, you can always come onto something. I have purchased a little, you can get like a gardening thing or something, just to place your knees on, just so it's not as hard on your floor. So I come down onto my knees. You want your hips aligned above your knees and spread the fingers out, and you want the shoulders stacked above wrists. So just checking in with that, making sure you're spread, and really gripping with your fingers. So you really want to, almost like a little gecko, you want to just grab the ground with your fingers, and that will help take some tension out of the wrists, especially if you're pressing into your pointer and your thumb. These are the most important ones so that you're not rotating your wrist open. This is very important in a downward dog as well, to keep the wrist safe. So we want to try to come to somewhat straight arms here. Again, if you are hypermobile, I don't know why I said again, like I've already talked about this, I haven't. So first off, if you are hypermobile, you do want to be careful that you're not really overextending here. So you just want the eyes at the elbows pointing in towards each other. If you start to rotate them out, you're really going into the elbows, and that's not safe. So you do want to kind of keep them pointed together. And we're going to start some cat-cows here. So this is going to really work into our spine. So on our inhale, you guys, get comfortable with feeling like you look fat. No one cares, we're in yoga. So inhale, drop that belly down, let it go. Inhale, start to open the chest to the front, maybe lifting the head if that's okay on the neck. Just really arching into that spine. Stick your butt up, boy, get that butt up in the air. Drop that belly, breathe into the belly, let it fall down. We're not sucking it in right now. And on our exhale, we're gonna press into the hands, start to curl the tailbone under. Squeeze the core to the spine and drop the chin to the chest. Squeeze that arrow. This is angry cat. And then inhale, drop the belly, lift the head. And this is really getting mobility in the spine. So exhaling, angry cat. And you can start to flow here with your own breath at your own tempo. So inhaling, dropping the belly. And then when you're ready, exhaling, curving the spine up, pressing into the hands to pull the scapula apart, stretching into the upper back. You can close down the eyes if that's comfortable for you. Just flowing through a couple of these at your own pace. And toes are untucked here, just so y'all know. And if you would like as well, similar to the Sufi grind that we did, you can start to really bring everything into this. You can start to get your rib cage going. So think of your inhale as up into your cow, and then think of almost twisting to look at your bum. So you want to pull your bum towards your eyes, looking to one side, and then you're going to start to curve into your cat. And when you exhale here, you're looking at your other bum, cheek, I guess, and then coming through the middle again. So almost like you're doing circles with your spine, so you're really stretching into the rib cage as well, and just really getting that nice juicy stretch all through the sides of the body. And again, just if you've been doing that, switching directions. Making sure you're breathing. Let's do a few more here. And just coming back to a neutral spine. Woo, I was really going with that. I made myself a little dizzy. I was getting stretching in. Woo! We are going to come back into our child's pose. I like to open the knees out nice and wide as your mat, maybe wider. Starting to sink the bum back towards the heels. I'm gonna pop a leg because my ankle's jacked. And we're just gonna sink that down, sliding the hands forward, and bringing the forehead onto the mat. So in this position, if you can't quite get your forehead down, you can always bring a block or something. Just wanting to start to melt the chest into the ground. I find with my little popped leg here, because of my ankle, I actually get really far down and deep into my child's pose. But this is a really good hip opener. It's also a really nice sort of rest where you're sort of almost in your little quiet space in between your arms, kind of in your own little spot. So if you ever are feeling during any yoga class, not just this one, that you're losing your breath, you can't kind of stay with your breath, you're feeling a little overwhelmed, just drop down into a child's pose and just take a second for yourself. Just get your breath back, come back into your body. Unless you are in like a hot yoga or something, then you sort of want to extend out because you don't want to keep all the heat in the core of the body. But otherwise, you can always just come to a child's pose. And just take a little second here. Feeling that pressure of the ground on the third eye. And inhaling, we're going to slowly come back up, bringing the knees back in as if we were going to be in a tabletop. We're going to come into puppy dog pose, so this is a really good stretch for the shoulders. So you want to keep your hips above your knees, but we are going to start almost like a mix between tabletop and child's pose. You're going to start to sink your arms forward, sticking your bum up into the air. You want to almost come down. You can keep your forehead down to come down and stretch into here. Do you feel this across the chest? Yeah. So if you do get to a stage where your chest comes down, you can lift up the chin and place the chin on the floor. But again, notice what's comfortable here. I like to do this against a wall. My ladies, you may notice this as well. It can really be a lot of pressure coming straight down onto your girlfriends, okay? So I find if I do it against a wall, it's something that I can kind of press back against. I can almost lift my chest off the ground a little bit, and then it's a little bit less like my entire body weight just trying to flatten my boobs, okay? Stay safe, ladies. And busty men, I don't know. Anyone, if your boobs are hurting, try and press against something or even press into the floor to kind of, because that can be a very intense posture, but it is such a great stretch across the chest. I also just realized this is great for yoga teachers as well, if there's any yoga teachers in here. I just realized that I should have, at the beginning of the class, asked for consent to touch you and adjust you. So I apologize for just reaching out and grabbing you unawares. Herman also apologizes because he's sniffing your butt right now. He just wants to be friends. So do I have consent to adjust you and touch you?
Consent granted.
Okay, thank you. Sorry guys. we both work in a law firm, okay? We gotta make sure that this stuff is kosher. So now we're laying here on our bellies. Let's flail around on them a little bit, hey? So I'm gonna remove my little knee prop for a second. Herman's ready for yoga, okay? He's ready. We did cat pose already, Herman, you're late. We're gonna move into a little bit of back strengthening now, so this is nice and juicy. It's called baby cobra. So we wanna bring our hands under our shoulders, almost as if we were gonna push ourselves up. So gaze is down at the mat. When we inhale here, we wanna start to use the strength of the back. We're not using our hands here, they're just there for support. So using the strength of the back to peel the shoulders back and begin to lift up, shining the chest forward. If you wanted to, you could lift your hands up. We are not using the strength of the hands here, we're using the strength of the lower back. So pulling that up, feeling that in the lower back, you're like, oh my God, and exhale, release it down. And do one more of these, and then we'll move into the harder version, way-o. Herman's showing the harder version right now, he's on, Lloyd. So inhaling up, feeling that, you'll feel the compression in the lower back, strengthening your back here, and exhaling down. Now, to come into locust pose, we're going to extend our arms down with our palms face up. Again, adjust yourself, ladies. Adjust your things if you must. We're going to think of, I like to lead with my shoulders when I come into locust. So I like to rotate my shoulders back and peel my arms back. So it's almost as if you're coming up into like a little boat or something.
Right.
So we're gonna start with lifting our upper body off the ground, but then you do want legs and feet to come off as well. So make sure you're breathing and not holding your breath here. So we're gonna inhale, peel the shoulders back, reach for the feet almost, lift, squeezing the back, squeezing the glutes. Come up a little bit higher, and exhale down. We can release one ear to the mat. Letting the heels fall out, toes in. Relaxing for a second. Or let's bring an ear to the mat instead of the chin because we don't want to pull on your neck. So slide the head down.
Is that okay?
I mean, if that's comfortable for you, leave slide. Yeah. There we go. We just don't want anything like compression on the neck, right?
Okay.
So just letting that go. We're gonna bring our hands back down. We're gonna go again, y'all. Of course we are. So we're gonna exhale everything out. And then inhale, pull yourself up. Peel the shoulders back. Legs come up, chest comes up. Squeeze up. Try to grow a little taller here. Up. And release other ear to the mat. Heels fall open, toes come in. And noticing now that we're doing strengthening postures, if you start to lose your breath, has your breath moved in and out of your mouth? Again, try and keep that in your nose. I find that a little hard when I'm in postures that are laying on my stomach, just because, you know, she's a little chunky. Oh, he's vicious. It's yoga with a twist. My cat's attacking him, for those of you who don't know. Well, this is a perfect time to come into the full expression of this pose. You keep your knees up. We are now going to come into bow pose, B-O-W, bow pose. So we're gonna start to come up. Hands will come almost, so hands are facing up. When they come up, they're gonna come around as if they're facing your feet, and you're gonna reach for your feet.
Okay.
So grab your feet, and then we're gonna inhale, pull yourself up. Pull. Higher. Let go. That was great. Great job. Now we're letting it go.
That's great.
Herman's distracted. You're good to go. Yoga with the cat, y'all. So just taking a second to let that go. Melt that into the ground.
Oh, that was good.
You did it, right?
You did that. Like, you came up.
You come up high, man. Yeah, you can rear up real high when you get used to it.
Oh gosh, like how?
So I always grab my feet first,
yeah.
and then I always kind of flex so I hold like the top of my foot almost, instead of the ankle.
Okay.
I come up into the top of the foot, I flex the foot so I don't come from the outside. Grab it, yes, there. So flex the feet, so that you're pulling your feet against your hands. So then we're gonna start to push against, and then use the strength of the legs to pull the arms open.
Okay, I have to get that.
Yeah, it's fun, eh?
Okay.
Yeah, and it really pulls open the chest and really opens in there. It's fun, you guys. Yoga is a good time. It's not all serious and breathing weird, okay? That's just half of it. So we are now going to bring the hands up under the shoulders, and we are going to start to come up. So, of course, as most people in any sort of fitness thing know, you don't want to worm. Let's not worm our backs, okay? That's not good for you. So you're going to try to engage the core and push up. It's easy for some. I have to make that weird sound that I just made every time I do it. So we are going to kick up into our first downward dog of the day. So, planting the hands, spreading the fingers, pressing into the fingers. We're going to curl our toes under and start to hover the knees. And then we're lifting our bum up into the air and coming up here. Now, Lloyd and I have already discussed his downward dog, but I will show it to you. Can you turn a little bit more sideways, just to mine, and then we can do sideways cheers so they can see it, yeah. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so what we can finesse here, we want your legs a little bit closer together. And you can always bend your knees in downward dog. Herman loves downward dog, it's his favorite. You're a little actually close. Let's open it a little bit.
Okay.
So step the legs back a little.
Okay. So.
Yeah, so like extend it open a little bit farther away.
Okay.
Feet together. Not all the way together, but you know.
Okay,
Just so that you're a little bit wider of a triangle. So you really want to be, instead of being almost in like a forward fold.
Okay.
There we go, okay. I mean, I'm making him hold a downward dog for how long? I mean, you guys. give them a break, okay? So you can bend into your knees a little bit. There's no rule on earth saying you have to have straight legs in a downward dog. Never, ever. Right. You just want to have the idea of your heels moving towards the ground. So we also want to tilt our hips so that we're almost kind of pointing our tailbone up at the sky, extending through the lower back here. Sorry, pulling your clothes off. Remember these guys? Press into them. Because your hand is starting to lift here, right? You feel that? So we want it, there you go. And that's gonna take the tension off of the wrists. And you can press through here, extend through your hands, drop back. And now, as you can see here, Lloyd looks very good here. I'm gonna pull your shirt so they can kind of see that you're a very nice straight line here. You might notice if you were really trying to wing yourself out here that you droop into the chest, whereas you want to really zip this up, tighten the core, bring the navel to the spine. You can come down, I'm so sorry. It's been 7 years, he's exhausted. And Shavasana, no. I'm probably sweating more than you are, and you're the one doing the pose. But you really want to notice, I'll really exaggerate here. So you'll notice that you might try to sink through your arms and come like this. Right. With your chest, you can see that my ribs are winging out. I'm not holding on to shit here. This is all, my chunks are just out. So you really want to, you do want to point your tailbone up at the sky, but you want to think of engaging that. Did you see that?
Yeah.
So think of zipping that up, pulling your navel to the spine. You do want a little bit of engagement here.
Right.
I am about to release you all from the stress that yoga teachers have put on you in the past. Downward dog is not a resting pose, okay? It's not. Teachers have said this sometimes, it's crazy. And that just stresses people out so much because they're here in this pose that like, you're dying, right? You're like, oh my God, how long can I hold this? And then they're like, so this is a resting pose. And you're like, oh my God, I'm the worst yogi ever, I'm dying right now. Downward dog is not a resting pose. Get rid of it. It might come to a stage in your yoga career where it feels a little more comfortable. The first few times I had to do yoga and I was doing, Herman's playing with Lloyd's feet, and I was doing vinyasas and flowing through them, my shoulders, I thought I would die. I couldn't do it, I couldn't handle it at all. And now it's like, downward dog, who cares, right? But that's something that progresses. Right. It's not something that from day one, you should be resting in your downward dog. No, if this is hard for you, good. Make sure you're keeping your breathing going, steady in and out through the nose, and just pay attention to your body. And check in. When I hold a long downward dog, I'll notice that initially I get into it, I get my form, I'm good. If I'm holding it for a few breaths, I'll notice that happen. And I'm like, whoop. It's continually coming back to correcting yourself and getting the proper alignment and making sure you're connecting things right. Okay? It's hard work to talk now. So where were we? We're in our downward dog, aren't we?
Yes.
So we're up in our downward dog. I'm sure you guys are all still there waiting for us, right? So pressing into the forefinger and the thumb, pressing those knuckles into the ground so that your wrists are safe. We're gonna inhale, gaze up at your thumbs. And you can take a bend into the knees here, and you can step or hop as many steps as you need to come to the front of your mat. There are some people that can float to the front of their mat, and it's beautiful. Oh my God, you'll get there quicker than I will because you've got the strength for it. They can almost like chop up into like a handstand, and then they're like, I'm here, you're welcome. So, forward fold. You can bend your knees. If you feel like you're gonna fall over, bend your knees. You can hold your upper body on there nice and comfy. You wanna get your hands, fingertips, close to coming onto the ground. So we want our feet about hip width apart. People, especially I think with women, will think that their hips are all the way out here. No man, I like to almost feel under, wade through all the butt fat, and find your little sit bones in there. That's where your hips are aligned. So my hips are actually here. So this for me is hip width, right? You're not, that's just, chance. That's just God-given. We want to be where our hips are. So make sure you're not coming into it like this. I mean, that's a wide-legged forward fold, which is also juicy and delicious, but we're coming in normal. So it's going to be a little bit closer together than you're going to think it is what that whole long speech was to say.
Right.
So we're coming into our forward fold, bending in the knees if you need to. If you want to straighten the legs, you can. But we want to be able to feel comfortable dropping the head. So not necessarily staring at the ground, we want to just like let that go. And you'll feel this start to release and pull forward. And just start to try and move the weight into the balls of the feet. Not completely, you don't want to come right up. But just instead of sinking into the backs of the feet, bring it forward a little bit. If you feel like you're gonna fall, think of scooping under the stomach. That's when you sort of suck the belly in, but you wanna think of scooping it. That'll give you a little bit more stability. And you can reach for opposite elbows here if you feel stable enough. You can even sway side to side. Just let that back release. Letting the head drop, so maybe giving a couple of yeses and nos. Relaxing the head, just like a little rag doll. And releasing the hands to the ground. We're gonna take a deep bend into the knees, and we're gonna rag doll. So slowly starting to come up. Very, very slow, keeping the head down, vertebra by vertebra, vertebrae, vertebra, I don't know. Last thing to come up is the head. Big shoulder roll at the top. Juicy, I love a forward fold. Also,
yeah, that feels good. I like the release in the bottom.
Oh, delish.
Yeah.
You can even do that seated, people, if you want to do it at your desk or something when no one's looking. You can just like ragdoll forward and it just pulls your back out. It's so good. So now we're standing. What are we going to do? I'll tell you. We're going to do some sun salutations. So a sun salutation is a sequence of postures. There are a couple different sun salutations you can do. Excuse my sweat, holy moly. So you can do a sun salutation A, sun salutation B, that include a couple different postures. I typically always do a sun salutation A. That's what you're going to mostly see in your practices. So we're going to do a sun salutation A. In Sanskrit, that is Surya Namaskar A. So when you hear the teacher say Surya Namaskar, come into your Tadasana, mountain pose. Tadasana is the Sanskrit for mountain pose. So coming to mountain pose, sipping your cold tea. Whew. What we want to do, again, hip width apart. You want to have your feet almost lifting up your toes here and placing them back down nice and spread. You really want to be able to have a nice base with your feet. And when you lift your toes, feeling how the arches of your feet start to almost rise up.
Yeah.
You want to keep that idea, that intention, because you're pulling energy up. We want to keep our energy contained in most postures. So we're containing that energy. We're starting to pull energy up. You want to keep the knees pulling up the legs. Now, what we notice here, I'll show it because Lloyd is a lot more straighter than I am. I got that booty, okay? So how I typically stand, I have a sway to my back. So I'm typically like, hey, what's up? So in this posture, I'm pressing into my feet. I want to do this little magic. Huh. So engaging the core, zipping that up, dropping the pelvis, tailbone down, so that you are feeling that little bit of engagement in your core. You're going to feel something in every posture in yoga. You're never just going to be like, now I'm standing. This is mountain pose. You're going to feel it. So pulling up the legs nice and strong here. What is that? Tailbone. Tailbone down. What is this, my butt? Tailbone down, tilting the pelvis, engaging the core, making sure that your ribs are nice and stitched together. You're not rolling the shoulders up and back, so you're nice and broad across the chest. Arms come down, the palms are facing forward here. Again, squeezing the arms, almost like you're squeezing the upper arms into your body a little bit. So it's like you're in this little compact package, but growing at the same time. So you're really growing tall over the crown of the head, broad across the chest. Chin is tucked just slightly, engagement in the core, navel to spine. And you are feeling strong and powerful here. So if someone were to push you, you're going nowhere. You're steady here. So this is you build your foundation before you begin your practice. He feels himself in this pose. He's like, mountain pose. That will happen. So we are strong. We're in our mountain. And now we're ready to begin our sun salutation. So sun salutation, you really, really want to focus on your breath. So it can kind of go as slow or as fast as you want it to. Of course, if you can't stick with the breaths that I'm suggesting, if this is like your sort of first few times coming to. Herman is taking over. Hi Alana, hi Debbie, hi Jem. Okay, sorry. I have screen time suggestions on my phone that I do not listen to. Lloyd's been here in his mountain pose this whole time, not moving, yes. Okay? Mountain pose, Tadasana, we strong, we ready, okay? So try and flow with your breath as much as you can. Of course, if I'm ever saying inhale, exhale, and you're like unable to breathe, take an extra breath. I'm not the yoga police. I'm not gonna kick down your door and come punch you because you know? I mean, I might do that, but not because of yoga. It's because I'm aggressive, okay? So we're strong. We're ready. Let's do a cleansing breath, just like that. Deep inhale through the nose. Open the mouth. Be hideous. You're not here to be pretty. Okay. So we're gonna inhale, sweeping the arms up overhead. Palms will come to touch. Again, notice here if you immediately, you wanna keep the core engaged, keep that nice, perfect, nice and straight. You can gaze up at your thumbs here. If you would like, you can take a tiny little back bend here. And then exhale, and we're gonna swan dive forward. So if you wanna bend your knees, you can bend your knees here, coming to our forward fold. Releasing the head down. Inhale, we're gonna come to halfway lift. So placing the hands on the shins, never on the knees. Be safe, people, with your joints. Inhale to a flat back. You wanna come nice and straight along here. So your spine is growing out long like that. Perfect. Exhale, dropping back down. Forward fold, plant your hands. And let's step or hop back to a high plank. You are welcome to drop your knees here if you would like. High plank. Yeah, there we go, gorgeous. So you can drop your knees here if you would like. That's totally fine. You can stay in high plank. We're gonna come through our chaturanga transition. So slowly sucking elbows to the sides, coming down, and we're gonna hover at the bottom, and then release down. You can come into your baby cobra here, or pressing into the hands. You can come into your upward facing dog. So upward facing dog, hands, tops of feet. Those are the only things touching the ground. So squeezing the legs up, opening up, and then exhale, stepping back into your downward facing dog. Take a deep inhale through the nose, exhale out the mouth. Inhale, gazing up at the thumbs. You can bend the knees, stepping or hopping to the front of your mat, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Nice flat back. Exhale, fold. Let's take an extra breath here in our fold. Bending deeply into the knees. Inhale, sweeping the arms up overhead. Palms come to touch. Check in with your pelvis. And exhale, hands come to heart center, Anjali Mudra. You can close down the eyes here. Just take a second to let that sit. Releasing the arms down by the sides. We're gonna do a couple more because I am a glutton for punishment. So coming strong into your Tadasana, immediately, boom, you're there. Your pelvis is tucked, your core is engaged. You're open across the chest. You're proud mountain, strong. Inhale, sweep the arms up overhead. Palms come to touch, tucking the core, perhaps a little baby back bend. And exhale, we're folding, swan dive down. You can bend the knees if you'd like. And inhale, hands to shins, halfway lift, flat back. Exhale, fold down. Planting the hands, stepping or hopping to your high plank. Nice and strong here, squeezing the core. Come through your chaturanga transition. Squeezing that in. Inhale to your baby cobra, your upward facing dog. And exhaling into your downward facing dog. Inhale through the nose. Exhale out the mouth. Check in with your downward dog. Is your stomach sticking out? Sure is, you guys. Whoops. Tuck it. Pressing into the knuckles. Finesse that downward dog while we're here. Let's paddle out the feet here so you can pop one heel and kind of wag your little dog tail. Just pedaling out the feet, getting that sort of stretch into the calves to make it a little bit more comfortable. Now we're going to come into a little bit of a challenge position here before we finish out our sun salutation. We're going to step and put all of our weight into our left foot. And we're going to start to sweep our right foot up. Paying attention to the hips here and noticing if you're opening in the hips. You want to keep your hips even. So perhaps your foot doesn't come up as high, that's fine. Pressing into the hands, making sure you're not sinking up towards your ears. Pressing strong, lifting that leg, three-legged dog. Let's open the hip, and we're going heel to buttocks. So lifting your leg, other one. We haven't switched yet, I'm really just hurting you. So start to wing this hip open, keeping the shoulders nice and even. There we go. And we want to start to bring our heel to our bum. Opening there. Yeah. You feel that?
Yeah.
And you can bring it back down. Oh, it's a good one, hey?
Yeah.
Hey, we're still in our downward dog, young man. You said take it easy, and I was like, no, sir. Weight comes into the right foot. Let's start to lift that left foot up. Again, keeping the hips even here. And then opening the hip, heel to the bum. Hips are open to the side of the room. And release that back down. You can come into a child's pose if you'd like here. Inhaling up at the hands with the gaze. You can bend the knees and hover step to the front of your mat. Forward fold. Down. Bending the knees if you like. Inhaling, halfway lift, flat back. Exhale, fold. Now if you need to bend the knees quite deeply here, do go ahead and do that. We're going to come into gorilla pose. So we're going to step our feet onto our hands. So the bottoms of the hands will come down. If you need to bend your knees a lot, maybe you're not fully on the hands, that's fine. Just start to wiggle the toes here and massage your hands. Whoever thinks about massaging their hands out, right? Eventually you can come up high enough to be like up at your wrists.
Yeah.
And then you really, do you hear all that cracking that's happening?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Half fits my toes, half fits my wrists. I don't even know. Taking a breath here. Releasing the hands. This is why I always wash your hands after yoga. Bending the knees and inhale, sweeping the arms up overhead. Exhale, heart center. Closing the eyes, taking a second. Let that sink in. Maybe you're dripping sweat, maybe that's just me. I don't know. No judgment, okay, you guys. We're gonna do one more sun salutation and then we'll move on. All right, inhale. Sweeping the arms up overhead. Maybe you get your little back bend in. Exhale. Forward fold, bending the knees if you need. Hands to shins, halfway lift. Nice flat back. Exhale, fold. Plant your hands and step or hop to your high plank. Yes, boy. And now you can drop the knees or come through your chaturanga. Hovering at the bottom if you can. Oh, inhaling to your baby cobra or your upward facing dog. And exhaling, downward dog. How did we get here again? Inhaling, gaze up with the thumbs, step or hop to the front of your mat. Hey, one day we'll get there, right? Quick. Exhale. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Bending deeply into the knees. Inhale, sweep the arms up overhead. Exhale, heart center. Anjali Mudra. Sun salutations! Yes! All right, we're gonna do cat hair and sweat, not a good combo. We're gonna do a little bit of standing postures now. So these are nice strengthening core, good ones for just getting your what is this called? Your foundation nice and set. So we're going to come into our little hip width apart situation. Wipe our sweat on our eyeballs. Y'all, talking while working out? She ain't ready. You don't have to be skinny to do yoga, but oh my God, maybe you should work on your cardio. So, we're going to move into our lunge sequence. Right. So, with yoga, and I think with any fitness lunge, you want to make sure, everyone thinks because it's yoga you need to be in line, so I'm trying to make sure that I'm kind of face on for both of you here. So when we step back into our lunge, we don't want to think of being in one line here. We don't want this. We want our hips, notice where your hips are, and keep your feet that distance apart because you want to have that little bit of stability. You don't want your feet like this, right? So we want to make sure that we are staying at this width. Yes, remove any props. You might want to remove your little sockies, just see how you feel. It might be a little slippy. Yes. Stay safe, folks. So just notice when you're stepping back, do you feel like you're immediately like, whoa, what the hell? Just kind of slowly try and maybe step back, not quite so big. Feel out your stability maybe. Notice where you can come to. So we are going to step back into a high lunge first. So hip width apart, hands to the hips here. Or they can be out if you need the balance, totally fine. And we're going to just gaze down at your feet here. Again, engaging the core all times, y'all. And just stepping one foot back into your high lunge. So, you do again want to make sure that you're not in your high lunge. If you need to bend into that back knee a little bit to keep your pelvis and everything in line better, you can totally do that. And notice with your knee, if it's coming really far in, you want to almost point it towards your pinky toe and make sure that your knee is always tracking over your ankle. You don't want to come way too far over your toes. So coming into your high lunge here, we're going to sweep the arms up overhead. As always, once we've lifted the arms, check it with your rib cage. Did it just fly out? Tuck it back in. Core is engaged. Now, what we're going to do, Lloyd is on a different leg than me, so we're going to come facing each other. So whatever your long leg is, you're going to drop that heel to the ground so that it's parallel with the back of your mat. So we're opening our hips now. We're coming into warrior two setup. So what you want is the front heel to be in line with the arch of the foot. So you can widen your stance a little bit too. I like to widen my stance for warrior two so that I can really bend into that front knee. So again, watch your knee. Is it coming in? You want it to go towards the pinky toe side. Tuck that pelvis. Arms can come out, shoulder height. Palms are typically facing down. I like to always flip mine to roll my shoulders down the back and then flip them back. So in a warrior two, your gaze is going to be at your middle finger and just sinking into that knee, tucking the pelvis, keeping the core engaged, gazing at that finger, nice and strong. You're going to start to feel heat building. Ho, ho, ho! Ow! Which means we're going to stay for an extra breath. What's wrong with me? Am I a monster? Don't answer that. Now, we're going to drop our front elbow onto the quad, not on your kneecap, just watch out. And we're going to sweep this arm up and overhead. So, pressing down on the outer edge of your foot. Think that you're pulling energy up from the ground. Right? You are just like, you are projecting energy. And we want to open our hearts here. So peel that open, yeah. So we're, this is extended angle pose. So think of just pulling all of the energy out of the earth and you're just like, goodbye. So you can also gaze up at your, what is this, elbow crease if you'd like. But you want to think of opening that chest. So pressing that open, yes. You may not be able to come over as far with your arm, you'll notice, if you are opening it, but you do want that openness there. So, pulling away, pulling open. Notice what's happening on your side. Lloyd is very open here. I've got some more chunks than he does, you guys. So I'm a little bit more collapsed. Try and press into that elbow and create a little bit more space in here, just so you're not collapsing. Now we're gonna windmill our arms. Warrior two, keep that front knee bent. Oh my God, oh my God. And extend.
That's good.
It burns, you guys.
That's good.
It burns.
That's good right there.
Oh boy. Okay, we're extended. Guess what? We're basically ready for triangle pose now that our knee is straight. What? It all fits together? Crazy. We're gonna start to extend forward as if someone's pulling your fingers. You're like, oh my God, oh my God. And then you drop down. So you can grab onto the front of your shin here. You can place the hand onto a block. We always want to be holding something. A lot of people want to come down to the ground. Maybe you have the flexibility to, so do I. Great. Can you check in with my top shoulder, please? Where is that bad boy pointing?
Yeah.
So yes, I may be flexible enough to do this, but this ain't cute. You're not open. So you want to come to where you can be open. So I like to hold onto my calf. You can use a block. This is my shin, not my calf. Shut up, Nicole. I always like to really come down and make a movie of it. Like, make it dramatic. Peel open, yes. As if you could fit between two panes of glass here. I, of course, lose my butt, but that's fine. Tucking in the core, feeling open and extended here. So strong. Pulling that knee up the front of the leg. Don't hyperextend here. And then we're gonna bend into that front knee. Guess what's about to happen? Windmill the arms into warrior two. How did we get here again? Oh my God. And straighten.
All right.
Now, hands come to the hips. Let's bring both of those toes. We're facing each other. Patty cake, okay? We're gonna come into our wide-legged forward fold. So, again, if you have hypermobility in your knees, that's not cute. If you wanna get a little micro bend, you're gonna feel like your knees are like this. They're not. You can see mine, they're fine. Pulling the knees up the legs. We're gonna protract the chin almost like you got some paint in. You wanna paint the person in front of you or the wall in front of you. So we're gonna stick our butt out, And we're down on the ground. Hands can touch the ground, you can come to a block, whatever's comfy. Inhale here, exhale, folding down, letting go. So you want to think of being able to release. Like, so if you lifted your arms off the ground, maybe you're nice and relaxed here. Maybe you're not, that's chill too. People with long ass hamstrings, this is like, I'm not posed. I'm like, yeah. You can always reach for the outside edges of your feet if that's comfortable, or you can keep the hands under your face. If it's in your practice and you would like to, and you want to start creeping under with the hands, if your head's on the ground, you can pop up into a headstand. Just keeping that tight, just noticing where you're at today. Maybe your balance is crazy today. I almost killed Lloyd just now. So just noticing where you're at with any day. Like sometimes I have been able to do a headstand since I was like 7. One day it will though. It's the fun of yoga. Oi, don't rush it, man. Don't rush it. People, did I not say be safe in your yoga? Don't listen to him. He's naughty. But that was great. Great job. We're doing a headstand later now. You're in trouble. So inhaling up, halfway lift. And now bending the knees slightly. Engage the core. This is very important here. Hands come to the hips. Squeeze that core because you don't want to come up with the back. So squeeze the core. Straight back, you're up. Beautiful. Strong. Gorgeous. What must we do to the other side once we've done it to once?
The same thing.
We have to, you guys. I know. Now, RIP to this squat. All we're going to do, we can come into a little circle. We're going to, my ankle can't do that. Okay. Notice where you're at. So this one's parallel. Again, you want your heel to be lined up with the arch of your foot. So your leg is straight here. Mine isn't because my ankle is not allowing it.
Yeah.
Uh-oh, we're in warrior 2. Bending into that front knee. Knee is tracking towards the pinky toe, tucking your tailbone, core is tight. Arms are nice and open, flip the palms up just to roll the shoulders down. And then putting them back. Gaze, drishti is at your middle finger. Bending into that front knee. Ooh, it's tight, holy moly. And we're dropping that elbow, sweeping that arm up and around, opening the chest here. So you want energy shooting out those front fingers. You're just like, hello. Strong, just like, oof, gorgeous. Not very eloquent. And we're windmilling. Keep that knee bent. Keep it bent. You have to hurt too. And straighten. Now we're in triangle pose. What? Extend forward. Someone's pulling your hand. Ignore my bent knee. You have straight legs. And then coming down, if you want to grab your block, you could do that. Or you can hold on here. Oh, you guys, I'm dying. So we're going to sweep down, make it drama. Open. Gaze can be up at that thumb if that feels okay on your neck. If not, you can gaze at the ground. Feeling nice and strong in the core here. If you wanted to lift your second arm to get a bit of a core workout, of course, Lloyd's going to do it. Just doing that, I almost died. Just talking about it. So we're open, we're gorgeous, we're stunning, okay? We're in our triangle pose. We're gonna bend that front knee, and we're back into our warrior 2. Burn it, and straighten. Ouch, back to the middle. Bringing the other one back out. And now we're gonna swivel on that back foot. Almost as if we're in our little beginning pose, isn't it? And now growing light on that back foot, whoop, step up to the front. Tadasana, mountain pose. Ta-da! Are you sweating? Because I am. Let's do a challenge pose. These are really fun. I love to add a little challenge pose with men, okay, you guys? Lloyd, you instruct.
All right, so now.
No, now we're doing push-ups. No.
Now we're gonna
I'm
be doing
leaving.
some push-ups and some bench press.
I'll bench press an ice cream sandwich. Sorry. No. Okay. So with men, it can be fun in your yoga class if there are any yoga teachers joining here. It can be fun if you see men in your class. You are actually quite open. I haven't noticed a lot of like inflexibility in you. A lot of the times, men typically tend to be a lot tighter in the hips. So coming to any poses where you're seated, cross-legged, you can kind of tell that they're sort of like, oh no, like why am I here? All these women are here like I could birth, you know, and they're like, oh, they're doing that, my hamstrings won't do it. Like, so I like to add in like, oh now strength pose, and then men leave like and they're like, I'm the strongest one here. Like, you know, you gotta build up some people's egos, right? So we're gonna play with crow pose.
Okay.
Crow pose is an arm balance.
Okay.
So, look at him. He's looking good, an arm balance, I can do it. You probably can, that's why I'm doing it. So you leave here going, what yoga? What yoga? Exactly.
Right.
Hydrate yourself, people, if you have water. Now, crow pose is an arm balance, and it's very much about like off balancing and knowing where to look so that you keep your balance. So I'll show you it first. We're gonna come down like a little creep here. We're in our little, I don't know what we call this. Is actually a toe stand. I don't know why I'm pretending like I don't know what it's called. We're in a toe stand.
Yeah.
So what we're gonna do, it does take a tiny bit of flexibility to get into it. So we wanna plant our hands down, nice and flat, and then we're gonna lift our bums up into the air. I like to come all the way up because I can't sit in a squat for that long. And you wanna get as close as you can here. Now, what you wanna think of doing is putting your knee into your armpit, kind of, as close as you can into your armpit. Watch out, because obviously you got a big Balkan tricep here. Oh, hi sir. I like to harass my students as well. If you put your knee here and then you go to put weight on it, where's your tricep going? Goodbye, right? So you don't want to be right on the muscle. I like to almost come outside of it, and then I'm like, bitch, you goodbye, and I pull my tricep out of the way. You could also come crow pose initially if you're a beginner in crow pose. You can have your knees like right on your elbows, like outside them like this. Gaze is forward, so think of a triangle always. You're gazing at the tip of the triangle. Maybe your hips are right out like this. It might be hard because you're in a long sleeve shirt. You can just start to come forward and you're up in your crow pose. This is a crow pose. Just watch it slipping. See? The prodigy that is Lloyd. Lloyd, everybody! Lloyd Barker! Mountain pose. Now we want to accept, look at that gaze, that's mountain pose gaze. Tadasana eyes. So if you want to come a little bit higher, you start to lift your bum up, suck your knees in, almost as if they're coming up into your armpits. Again, gaze is forward. Don't gaze at your hands or you're doing a roll. Gaze is forward. You start to lean forward. Maybe your feet come off the ground. Squeeze the knees together. And also, use your little gecko fingers. Grab the ground. You always want to be gazing forward, but also play with maybe doing a forward roll. A lot of yoga is, get out of the squat. A lot of yoga is almost like overcoming a fear. So when you're learning like handstand, a lot of people teach it to learn how to fall first. So learn how to cartwheel out, that kind of thing. So that going into it, you don't have the fear of like, oh, I'm gonna go over or something like that. You already know how you're gonna come out of it.
Right.
So for me in a crow pose, because I have a gymnastics background, and obviously I was just a little shit as a kid, I just, forward roll. That's my go-to. I know. If I start to fall out of crow pose, tuck that head, and you're done, right? Some people might not be comfortable in a somersault. Just make sure if you start to fall, always tuck your head. Because if you fall, not cute. You don't want to fall on here. But also, really important, use your little grippers. Grab on, and if you start to feel yourself going forward, just grip into the ground, and that will help even you out. And of course, what's also really easy, throw those legs back. That's gonna throw you back. I mean, it won't be a comfortable landing, but at least you can fall on your face.
Right.
But also if you're nervous, you can put pillows in front of your face. Make yourself as comfortable as possible. But just, again, make sure you know how to fall safely. I digress. Let's get you back into crow pose again. There is also an expression called crane. I have a sneaking suspicion you might actually be able to do it. It's very hard. Okay, I can't do it. I've been trying for years. Oh my gosh, it's so annoying. So it's when you're in your crow pose like this. You come in like this, you come into your crow pose. Great, fine, dandy. If you can get your knees high enough, you use your strength and your wrist flexibility, which I also don't have, to kind of come forward. You want to straighten your arms.
And is it
So
fine
that your knees are up here.
Is it fine for me to do it like this?
Yeah, you can do it however you want.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, crane, I don't know if you'll be able to straighten your arms if you're out on your
Right. Okay.
elbows. Another way to come into a crow pose if you feel you can't get the height, come onto a block. So come onto a block with your little toes here. I don't know why I'm starting like that. So you're on a block here, and then you're already starting up like here.
Right.
So you can grab a block if you want and try to bring your arms in a little bit.
So,
bring your knees in.
Like standing
Yeah, step up on your block
Uh-huh.
with your little toes open almost.
Yeah.
And then come into your toe stand.
Okay.
So knees come out wide.
Okay.
Yeah. So now you place your hands nice and flat.
Right.
Now try and think of placing your knees like in more towards your armpits.
So like.
Yeah, and pull against those triceps, and gaze is going to be here, because you don't want to fall. Squeeze, so pull the knees together the whole time. Pull the knees together, pull the knees together. Yeah. Engage the core, engage the pelvic floor.
Right.
And there you go. Beautiful. So eventually, you can use your strength to pull your knees higher and then straighten your arms. I do not have wrist flexibility, so it's very hard for me because I can't. This isn't going to work. You need to be over your arm to have your knees here, right?
Right.
And then from there, they lift into a handstand.
Oh, that's the crane.
The crane one, they can lift into a handstand from it. And I seethe with jealousy. And then I have to remind myself of my yoga ego and relax. Okay, so we've done our crow. We're exhausted. We're coming to the floor, you guys. Don't worry, we're almost at the end here. Whew. So we're coming down to our Paschimottanasana. So we're sitting here. I like to give a little wiggle just to make sure I'm right on my sit bones. Some people will cue you to pull out your bum flesh. Do not do that because the way that your hamstring attaches to the ligament, to your bone, you're gonna be sitting right on that exposed hamstring. Not good. If you notice that you get some tension in the top of your hamstring, it might be because you're sitting on something with not enough padding. So I like to give it a little wiggle just so I'm right on my sit bones, but don't pull it out. So again, nice straight legs here. If your knees are a little bit bent, who cares? That doesn't make you a bad person. We all have our things, right? Maybe I have long hamstrings, but also I can't breathe right now. So what do you find important? I couldn't run from a zombie, okay? So again, we want to grow up tall here. So you also might notice, similar to this one, maybe you are in your lower back here. Maybe this one, your hamstrings are too tight for you to be up nice and tall. So you want to come to where you can. So if you want to bend your knees up a little bit, and that makes it better for you to come forward, because you want your back to be nice and straight in the lower back. So wherever's comfortable for you. You can even bring props under your knees if you want. Like if you find that you can't straighten them all the way, roll up a blankie, grab a bolster, and already, even for me, who I can have my legs straight, already I'm in so much more healthier of a position. So you want to do what's going to feel good for you. Do you want this or are you good?
No.
Okay. So finding where it's comfortable is what that all stands for. So we're here, we're great. We're gonna inhale our arms up overhead. And then we're gonna start to come forward, but I want you to come forward first, before we think of going, look, I'm flexible. Protract the chin, come forward with a flat back for as long as you can. You can bring the hands down to the floor, you can hold onto your ankles, you can hold onto your feet, but keep your back flat for as long as you can. When you reach that wall where you can't go any further with your backs flat, inhale, grow nice and tall, and that's where you can exhale, fold into it. You don't want to start to fold from here, because then you're just crunching. You want to get as much space as you can. Come hinge out of those hips, come up and over, and then exhale, fold down. I like to open my legs a little bit here so I got space for my bit. So find out where it's comfortable for you. I also have very long hamstrings and very short legs and very long arms. So this to me is like, I'm not stretching at all right now. So it depends on your anatomy too, which is so interesting. Like Lloyd could pop up into a crow pose first try, right? Whereas me, I'm like a what's good crow pose. Like, you know, it sort of depends. So everyone has their things that they're good at. So that's why it's so great to keep your eyes on your own mat when you're in yoga. Because if you were to look over, if we hadn't done crow pose yet, Lloyd's here, it's his first day, he looks over at me, and he's like, well, why am I even here? Because she can do that and I can't. Who cares? Who cares? Also, I did gymnastics for, 8 years? I danced for 12 years. I deserve my flexibility. Yeah. You know what I mean? So you don't know what other people have been doing to get where they are. If someone's floating up into a handstand and you're dying of jealousy, ding ding, get over it. You'll get there. Maybe they've been practicing that for 20 years. You don't know. So I digress. Love yourself, damn it. We're here, we're relaxing. It's really great. Breathing into this forward fold. Even though we're not standing, forward folds are always really, really good. As soon as you get that a little bit more than 90-degree hinge at the hip, this also, fun fact, does switch on your parasympathetic nervous system as well to where you can relax. So if you're feeling really, really stressed, really, really overwhelmed, come into a fold, because it will automatically cue your body that you're safer, right? Because you're coming into your little contained package and you feel nice and safe. So this is great for that. And then it's a nice release on the lower back. And we're slowly gonna roll back up and come down onto our backs. I don't like to face my feet at people, so I'm gonna come down this way. You can flip around too if you want. And we're just gonna come down flat onto our backs, keeping the knees bent. We're gonna come into a nice twist. I love to end a practice with a twist before Shavasana. It's so good for digestion, so good for menstrual cramps. It's just the best. It's so good for you. So we're gonna bring our knees up about a 90-degree angle. Arms can come out wide. You can also do cactus arms, whatever's comfortable. I like a T arm. And then we're gonna start to drop the knees over to one side. Now, the most important thing here is that your shoulder stays grounded. So if your knees have to stay up, that's totally fine. Bring some blocks, bring some pillows under your knees if you want support, totally fine. But if you can bring that top hand to hold the top of your knee and pull your knees over. It might also just take a second, but most you want your shoulder grounded.
Okay.
So ground the shoulder first and foremost, then work on getting your knees down.
Okay.
And you'll notice as you stay in the twist too that they might start to fall down a little bit further. So gaze can be over at the opposite extended hand. If that's not comfortable for your neck, you can also look straight up or the other way. Whatever's comfortable for you. Closing down the eyes, just relaxing here. Breathing through the nose. And breathing deep into the belly. Feeling this massage on your organs. Feeling the spine wringing out. We're going to inhale our heads back to center. And using the strength of the core, just bringing the knees back up. And then we're just going to drop them down to the other side. Again, making sure that that shoulder stays in. And you might notice that one side is a little bit better than the other one. This one I can't quite get my knees all the way down without my shoulder popping up. So prioritize the shoulder. And just come to where you can. And again, closing down the eyes if that's comfortable. Feeling that massage on your internal organs. The release of the spine, the lower back. And inhaling the head back to center, followed by the knees. We're going to come into a happy baby before we come into our Shavasana. So happy baby, everyone LOLs at this one. You can either reach for your shins here. You want to think of pulling your knees down into your armpits.
Okay.
So I like to, bring your feet up as if they're walking on the top of the ceiling.
Okay.
And then you want to pull the knees down and towards your armpits. So it's like you're treading on the top of the ceiling, just like that. If you can reach your feet, you can grab onto your feet as well. And what do babies do when they're happy? Oh, they roll around, don't they? Get a little roll, massage your lower back. So what I like to do is pull against my feet while pressing against my hands, and you'll feel your lower back straighten out across the ground. Also watch out, you might too in this pose. I'm just saying, it's real life, you guys. You can straighten one leg and then the other. Just kind of get your last wiggles out before we come into our Shavasana, which is our final resting pose. So, relaxing down, releasing into your Shavasana, your corpse pose. We're going to release our feet out long, let the toes drop open. Palms can come down by the sides, palms face up. Tuck your shoulders under so that you're, yeah, there you go. And you want to almost tuck your chin a little bit and then place your head back down just so that you're really nice and long in the neck. So everyone coming into their Shavasana here, closing down the eyes. If the Shavasana does not feel safe for you, you can always take Shavasana on your stomach. Or if this is good for your back, you can also lay in the fetal position. So just coming into your position, closing down the eyes. You're in Shavasana. You're in Shavasana. The teacher doesn't have to do Shavasana. Lay down. All of you, stay in Shavasana. Damn it. I can't lay in Shavasana and meditate with you guys, okay? Our eyes are closed, we're relaxing.
Alright.
Don't worry, I'm not gonna suddenly like poke you or something, you're good. I just like to sit up while I lead you through it.
Alright.
So relaxing down. Just feeling that yoga practice that we just did settle into the body. Maybe you notice some sensation in the body. Maybe your mind has slowed down a little bit now that you've moved a little. Or maybe your mind's quite busy. No right or wrong. Just letting go, letting the earth take the tension from the body. Almost seeing it seep from your body down into the ground. And then your breath slow down. To relax here. Allowing the mind to slow down. If you notice that the mind is wandering a lot, just observe that, don't judge it. Just bring it back to the breath. Every time, just keep coming back to the breath. Just taking a moment to yourself here to relax. I won't leave you guys in Shavasana, so don't worry. You can totally let go here. Safe. Inhale. Just slowly beginning to bring your awareness back into the body. Just taking a scan down through the body like we did at the beginning. This time as you observe the body, just sending a bit of gratitude to each and every part, every physical being. Making your legs be strong, holding you. Making your core always keeping you steady. Scanning through the body like that. Thank you. Thank you. Something in your eye makes me wanna lose myself. Makes me wanna lose myself in your arms. Something in your voice makes my heart beat fast. I hope this feeling lasts the rest of my life. If you knew how I wanted someone to come along, change my life the way you've done. Feels like home to me. Feels like home to me. Feels like I'm Feels like home to me. Feels like home to me. Feels like I'm all the way back where I belong. Feels like I'm all the way back where I belong. So bringing tiny movements into the fingers and toes, giving them a little wiggle. Perhaps rolling the wrists and the ankles. Maybe reaching the arms up overhead, taking a full body stretch here. You see any sighs or yawns. And just slowly at your own pace, beginning to lift the knees up. And the feet flat on the ground. And you can just roll yourself over into the fetal position on one side or the other. If you have low blood pressure, it's good to roll over onto your left side. So whichever feels better, you can use that bottom arm as a pillow. Just relaxing for a second before you slowly push yourself up and come into a comfortable seated position, cross-legged, keeping the eyes lowered or closed. And hands can come to Anjali Mudra, heart center, sealing your practice. Bowing the head slightly, taking a moment to feel gratitude for your body again. We give ourselves so much flack in this area. So just knowing that you did your best in this practice today, thanking yourself for taking time out of your day to do something good for you, for your body. And just pinpoint an area in your body that you typically send criticism or mean thoughts to, and just send it love. Say thank you. It's always there for you. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. May all beings everywhere be happy and free. The divine light in me honors, acknowledges, and bows to the divine light in you. Namaste. Thank you so much, everyone. How was your first yoga practice?
Fantastic.
Was it
Honestly,
good?
Fantastic. Just the strengthening, the tapping into my body, just the emotional feel, that connection. Amazing.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
good. Thank you so much for joining.
Yeah.
And thank you to all of you guys for joining as well, whether you just creeped on us and watched or if you joined into the practice as well. We really appreciate you for coming. I think maybe we'll both kind of crawl forward and address any messages we've received in our assorted lives. Move slowly, you know, you don't want to fully lose your zen. A lot of times will come out of yoga, as I like to call it, yoga drunk. So be careful.